Hey everyone, this is Tina, and I have had a lot of questions about Farrar Elementary and our investigation there last weekend. And I just thought it might be easiest just to do a quick little video and let you guys kind of know some answers to the questions I've been getting. So, first of all, I think everybody knows that Farrar has been sold and that it was in the previous owner's hands for a number of years. So the main question I've gotten is kind of like, what is the property like now under the new ownership currently? So I have been to Farrar a number of times over the years, and I did look it up. The last time I was there was October of 2023. And, you know, I am not a huge person that will remember every detail of every place I've been. I know there's people that have gone somewhere once and 5 years later can describe it to the T. That is not me. So unless there's something really that stands out at me, I'm probably not going to remember unless it's a lot different. So, you know, I noticed that they were doing some accessibility items with some ramps and some different things for the building. And then I don't want this to sound bad, so I don't want you to think I'm coming from there, but it just seemed like it was cleaned up some from what I remember. And the way I mean that is like some of the rooms that people didn't really go into a lot, like might have had a bunch of like heavy duty tools in the corner, or may have had like where some of the walls crumbled down and, you know, it was just kind of sitting there. I mean, you know, I probably wouldn't have gone in there and done a lot with that myself, to be honest with you, because, you know, it'd take a lot to lug all that stuff and get it out of the building and all of that. So you could just tell that, you know, it shifted hands and some of those type of things were gone. And it, you know, cleaned up. It just seemed tidied up. Not that it was any bad shape before, and I'm not saying that. It just seemed like it had been tidied up, I guess is a good way to put it. And the only like major thing I noticed was, if you remember the safe room, it was kind of a small room, and then there was an office in the corner, and you just everybody kind of crammed in this little L shape in there for the investigations. That room, the office was gone. No sign it existed. The walls were tore out. And it looked like they just basically kind of redid that entire room. Like they painted it, and it had new flooring in there, and rows of chairs for seating. One thing I thought was cool, they do have 12 to 16-ish live cam videos, video recorders running through the building. And then they have a huge screen in the middle of the wall in the room that you can just sit there and constantly watch the live feeds throughout the building. So if you want to take a break or something and see what's going on, or, you know, somebody wants to do a solo down in the boiler room and you just want to check on them, make sure they're safe or whatever, you know, I thought that was cool. That was nice. And then on each side of the big TV, they had kind of two bookcases, kind of with glass front cabinets, and those were full of items that you could check out to use during your investigation. There was everything from K2 meters up to like Sony Handycam cameras. You could put your own SD card in it, use it for the night, and then take your card with you when you went home. There were REM pods. There were the music boxes that have the little, you know, I'm a little lost for words. The little music device on the top that plays. There were spirit boxes with some amplifier boxes or something that were hooked to them. FLIR cameras. I didn't go up and actually like look in the cabinets. I just kind of saw what I could see from where I was sitting, but they did have a lot of stuff there. So if somebody went in and was new to investigating, it'd be a great opportunity to use some cool equipment. And it's kind of nice too if you're I've been in this situation a few times where I've been at some locations and it's like, oh, I think this might be kind of cool to have, and they have one there that you can use. And that's kind of a nice little try it before you buy it scenario. And then too, like we actually had 2 girls from Pennsylvania that drove down and did the 6-hour private overnight with us and then drove back. And I know a lot of people will fly in and fly out to go do some investigating. So, if that's the scenario for you, it might be kind of cool to come with no luggage or not have to have the expense of shipping your stuff out to a location before you get there. If that's something you're considering, I would highly request reaching out, because who knows, unfortunate things could happen. Something could break. I'm sure they're probably pretty good about keeping stuff charged up and ready to rock and roll. But, just that's something that they're working on doing there. So that's really pretty cool. And then I know the pricing has been like the big thing everybody's kind of been talking about. So before it was a certain price, I don't even remember what it was, to be honest. And you went in kind of earlier in the evening, spent the whole night, checked out by whenever in the morning, you had the whole place to your entire self. It is now under a different structure. They do have a new website that they said was going live the day after we were there, I believe. And they do have it booked out for tours during the day, I think, and then like a 4-hour tour from like, I don't know what it was, like 6 to 10 or something like that. But there was a group there before us. We got in at 10:30. We had the building from 10:30 until 4:30. So 6 hours. 6 hours went by extremely fast, as you can imagine it would. It was a great investigation. I have always had a lot of activity at Farrar, and this was no exception. It was probably the wildest night I've had at Farrar ever, and it's probably up there with one of the most wild investigations, period, I've experienced in my time doing this. So, it's nice to go in there with a game plan. I knew I wanted to do a solo investigation by myself on the auditorium floor. I wanted to be the only one on the floor and up there. And then I also wanted to do a solo in the boiler room with no one else on that level. And so we kind of talked about what everybody wanted to do, had a game plan, got in there, and went to town on it. And I think everybody got to do what they came there to do. So that was a positive. I did notice, just because I go in and I usually take pictures, which I did not do this time because I was just 6 hours investigation. That's all I'm doing. There was always this really cool chair that was in the auditorium, and it was gone. And there's a little doll, one certain doll that I always looked for when I was there, and I didn't see her, and I was kind of sad about that. But I remember the chair was just so odd because it had 3 legs, which is a huge safety risk, I'm sure, that no one wanted to deal with, somebody trying to sit in a 3-legged chair in the middle, in a dark room at night. So that chair was gone. Maybe the doll went with it. I don't know, but I missed her. I kind of peeked around for her in other rooms and didn't see her. But anyways, something else. They did have, in the auditorium, in the gymnasium, they had a circle of chairs in the middle of the gymnasium, and they had a tripwire set around in that circle, and I assume they put that out and then just kind of leave it there for everybody that comes through to just use. And they also had a tripwire run down the middle of the auditorium floor. I appreciated that. I like the tripwires, and I don't have one myself, so I was glad to see those. But yeah, back to kind of like the pricing or whatever. The time you're there is short. So you have to really make sure you get out of it what you want to get out of it. I know the building was up for sale for a number of years, I think it had been that long. And, it could have fallen into hands of somebody that was going to level the building and who knows, put up apartments or who knows what. And I know it went to some TikTok YouTubers, Sam and Colby. I honestly no idea. I had never heard of them. Somebody was talking about them, and I went and I Googled them and saw their picture, and that's my exposure to who they are. I've never watched any of their videos. I just don't know. I'm not familiar with them. I just know they're younger and that they're YouTubers or TikTokers or both. And they're the ones that purchased the building, and they've done a number of videos and stuff on it since then. And I've not watched those. So, you know, it went to people who are in the paranormal field. I don't know how they kind of fit in with their investigation style or what their research is or anything. But I believe probably in their shoes, they are set up to where they can probably handle some of the unexpected things that may come financially with buying a building like that. I don't know anything. It was kind of came up in some side discussions or something that there was probably some alleged foundation issues. And if you've ever dealt with any of that with your own home and trying to imagine a property the size of Farrar having those type of issues, that's a lot of money that most people probably would struggle would have struggled to come up with to purchase the property, and then probably would not have had funds to be able to do something like that. And then it would have been shut down anyways. There's probably some other things that need done to the property, to the building, probably a roof. I would imagine that would probably be another $100,000 on top of probably $100,000 for foundation repairs. And that's just getting started. I did hear some rumors that like the city was really trying everything they could to get it shut down. They may still be. They're coming up with all kinds of different trying to find code violations or find anything that they can to keep it from functioning as an investigation location for the paranormal. So all of that surely triggers, raised prices, and yes, they did jump quite a bit, but kind of knowing some of that and the alternative, it is expensive. If you plan for it, you plan for it. You get your 6 hours, you're ready to go. And it's a great legit location. But yeah, I get it from a business owner side. I can understand that they definitely needed to raise some costs, and I'm sure that's probably where some of the extra expenses coming from. And then also shortening the overnights to maybe get more people in the door. And bring some more money in that way. So I know it's tough. I know it's an expensive location. It's probably one of the most expensive I'm really familiar with, just off the top of my head, of places I've been to. And most of the things I go to, I'm an add-on. Somebody's like, hey, we're going here. Do you want to come with us? Sure. They've done all of the booking and everything. They just tell me how much I owe them for my piece, and off we go. So I don't, I'm really not up to speed on a lot of the prices that it costs for a lot of places, but it definitely had to have some sort of an increase. I just could see that. And then too, the hands that it's in, they obviously don't live in Iowa. They obviously aren't going to be here enough to maintain the property, to run the property, to remove snow, to take care of the grounds. So then they probably, and this is all assumption, I know nothing, they probably have to have some sort of property management company. They obviously are hiring people to do their tours, which I will say, the person who did our tour, I don't recall his name, and I feel really bad about that. He, I think, is a local area guy, and he's an investigator and a researcher himself, and he'd been coming to Farrar for years and years and years and years. And the guys found out about him, and they said, that's who we want to come and work for us. Then they offered him a job, and there he is. And so he's there the entire time you're there, but he stays out of your way. He answers questions if you have them. Otherwise, he's there researching stuff because that's what he enjoys doing. And so, they've got a great person there representing the business side of it. So yeah, but they've got to pay somebody to keep the lawn maintenance up. They got to pay somebody to keep the snow removal up. And them not being here, if you lived on the property, and were able to do those things yourself, that's one thing. But when you're probably, I don't know, they probably live in California or Florida or somewhere, they can't do that. So, for whatever it's worth, that was kind of my take on stuff. The building, to me, the building's the building. Everything's the same. The activity that's been known to take place was still taking place, especially down in that boiler room. And, I felt the building was tidied up a bit. Not seeing anything bad about its condition before, but it just kind of, looked like it switched hands and somebody went in there and, kind of, cleaned out their first apartment before they moved everything in or something. But it looked nice. The updates in the safe room were appreciated. I thought that was nice. I enjoyed the cameras and being able to watch the screens. Had I known they had some handy cams there, I would have taken a blank disc and seen what I think of that. I don't do any video right now, so it would have been kind of fun to play around with that. But I appreciated the tripwires there. They were huge in the experiences I had, which that'll be a separate video because it was wild. But they got equipment there. If that's a value add for you, great. If it's not, I know a lot of us like to roll with what we've got. I'm one of them. I roll very low tech. I'm more a personal experience kind of person. But everybody has their own preference for how they go in. So that may or may not be an initial value add for the price increase, but, also take into consideration, something had to happen as far as the price because somebody's buying this brand new property and, too, with the city poking at them and who knows what they're going to come up with and throw at them. And again, hopefully these guys, with the following they've got, hopefully have the money they can keep rolling with the punches and keep it open as a location for the paranormal. So if you have any other questions you want to ask me, you can certainly reach out to me. Again, I really know nothing. This was just my personal observations. And again, I haven't been there since October of 23, but I'd been there, 5-6 times prior to last weekend. Yeah, so there you go. Farrar. If you can afford it, I'd still recommend going, and despite what people may or may not think about the owners and how they investigate and stuff, they're going to need some support to keep things functioning. If you choose not to support them, that's totally fine. If you choose to go out and support them, that's great. You get to experience a good location and hopefully help them keep what they need coming in to keep the place running. And, again, whoever the gentleman was that was there that night working, he was amazing. He could talk history all night with you if you wanted to, but you only got 6 hours. You had to keep moving forward. But, it's in the pockets of somebody with money, and they've got somebody who I felt was very genuinely interested in Farrar, had a long time history with Farrar, is determined to keep Farrar what it is, and is really interested in just maintaining, working on history and keeping that out there and just keeping what it is, you know. So all right, that's it. I'm gonna go on that, but I will be doing a video to talk about my experiences there, because like I said, it's probably one of the most wild nights I've had in my time investigating, and it involves the boiler room. It was intense. So, all right. Thanks for listening, and you know, if you come to Iowa, hey, let me know. Maybe we can meet up and do something, or hang out, or you know, if you need to know some locations out this way, we've got some great ones. I can help you with it. So just let me know. I'm always happy to help.